Imagine if McDonald's suddenly asked Burger King to make their Big Mac. Sounds crazy, right? Well, that's essentially what just happened in the tech world, and it's way more shocking than you think. Apple, the company that's famously obsessed with controlling every single detail of their products, just did something that would have been unthinkable just a few years ago. They quietly approached their biggest rival, Google, and essentially said, "Hey, can you help us fix Siri because we can't figure it out?" This isn't just any partnership. This is Apple admitting that their crown jewel AI assistant is so broken that they're willing to hand over the keys to their biggest competitor. And when the news broke 3 days ago, Google's stock shot up over 3% in a single day. Here's the thing that'll blow your mind. This might be the smartest move Apple has made in years. Or it could be the beginning of the end of Apple as we know it. Welcome to the channel. I'm a digital avatar of Caleb Roberts. I was built to explore the edge of intelligence, automation, and innovation. Here, we dive deep into the systems behind AI, from research breakthroughs to real-world applications. If you're curious about how things work and how to build what's next, you're in the right place. This is where code meets cognition. Let's begin. So, why is everyone calling this partnership almost unbelievable and a stunning turn of events? To understand why this is so shocking, you need to know Apple's DNA. This is the company that spent billions developing their own chips instead of using Intel. They created their own operating system instead of using Windows. They even make their own screws that require special screwdrivers, so you can't repair your own iPhone. Apple's entire business model is built on what they call vertical integration, controlling everything from the hardware to the software to create that seamless Apple experience. Steve Jobs famously said he wanted to control the entire user experience, and that philosophy has driven Apple for decades. But Siri? Siri has been Apple's biggest embarrassment for years. While Google Assistant can have full conversations and Amazon's Alexa controls smart homes effortlessly, Siri still struggles with basic questions. Ask Siri to set 2 timers and watch it have a mental breakdown. So when Bloomberg reported that Apple recently approached Alphabet's Google to explore building a custom AI model that would serve as the foundation of the new Siri, it sent shockwaves through Silicon Valley. This isn't just Apple admitting defeat, it's Apple saying their core philosophy of doing everything in-house might be fundamentally wrong when it comes to AI. But why Google specifically? Why not stick with OpenAI or try Anthropic? That brings us to an even more fascinating question. What went so catastrophically wrong with Siri that Apple is willing to risk everything? Here's the dirty secret Apple doesn't want you to know. They've been trying to fix Siri for over 2 years, and they've failed spectacularly. The current Siri upgrade was originally promised for spring 2025, then it got pushed to 2026. And now, even 2026 is looking optimistic. The internal chaos at Apple has been brutal. They literally fired their AI chief, John Giannandrea, from the Siri project because of these failures. The project has been bouncing between different teams like a hot potato, with software boss Craig Federighi and Vision Pro creator Mike Rockwell now scrambling to save what's left. But here's the kicker. Apple isn't just building one new Siri. They're building 2 completely different versions simultaneously. Internal code names Linwood and Glenwood are competing in what Apple calls an internal bake-off. Linwood uses Apple's own AI models, while Glenwood is designed to work with external partners like Google, OpenAI, or Anthropic. This internal competition reveals just how desperate Apple has become. They're literally hedging their bets because they don't trust their own technology anymore. And the clock is ticking. Every month that passes, Google Assistant and ChatGPT get smarter, while Siri remains stuck in 2011. The most telling detail? Apple initially wanted to partner with Anthropic, but when Anthropic's pricing demands were too high, Apple went shopping for alternatives. That's when they swallowed their pride and called Google. But what would this partnership actually look like in practice? How exactly would Google's AI brain fit inside Apple's ecosystem without destroying everything Apple stands for? This is where it gets technically fascinating. Apple isn't just going to slap Google's Gemini AI into Siri and call it a day. Instead, Google is currently training a model that would run on Apple's private cloud compute servers, essentially creating a custom version of Gemini that lives entirely within Apple's controlled environment. Think of it like this. Instead of your Siri requests going to Google's servers where they could harvest your data, Google would create a specialized version of their AI that runs on Apple's own computers. Your data never leaves Apple's ecosystem, but the intelligence comes from Google's technology. This setup would be completely different from the existing ChatGPT integration in Apple Intelligence, which only handles basic general knowledge questions. A Gemini-powered Siri would be the core brain behind everything, understanding context, controlling your devices, managing your personal information, and executing complex, multi-step commands. But here's what's really wild. This wouldn't run on your iPhone at all. The processing would happen on Apple's servers using Mac chips for remote AI processing. Your iPhone would send the request, Apple's servers would think about it using Google's brain, and then send back the smart response. This architecture solves Apple's biggest problem. They get world-class AI without sacrificing user privacy or giving Google direct access to user data. But it also creates a new problem. Apple becomes completely dependent on Google for one of their most important features, and that dependency could reshape the entire tech industry. What does this mean for you as an iPhone user, and why did Google's stock price explode when this news broke? For Google, this is potentially the deal of the century. Getting Gemini AI onto over 1 billion Apple devices would be like winning the AI lottery. Right now, Google already pays Apple around $20 billion per year just to be the default search engine on iPhones. A Siri partnership could be worth even more. But here's the plot twist. Google is simultaneously facing the biggest threat to that search deal in company history. The US Department of Justice is literally trying to break up Google's search monopoly, and that $20 billion payment to Apple is target number one. So while Google might lose their search deal, they could gain something even more valuable: direct access to how iPhone users interact with AI. For iPhone users, this could be the Siri upgrade you've been waiting for since 2011. Imagine asking Siri complex questions and actually getting intelligent answers. Picture saying, "Plan my weekend trip to Portland, book restaurants that match my dietary restrictions, and add the reservations to my calendar," and having it actually work. But there's a dark side. Even though your data wouldn't go directly to Google, you'd be depending on Google's AI to understand your most personal information, your texts, emails, photos, calendar. Everything would be processed by intelligence technology created by Google. This also sets a dangerous precedent for Apple. If they outsource Siri to Google, what stops them from outsourcing other core features? We could be looking at the beginning of Apple's transformation from a technology company to a luxury hardware company that assembles other people's innovations. The market clearly believes this partnership will happen. Google's stock jumped over 3% on the news, while Apple's rose 1.6%. But investors might be getting ahead of themselves. So what happens next? And could this partnership actually fall apart before it even begins? Here's what most people don't realize. Apple hasn't made a final decision yet. According to recent reports, they're still several weeks away from making a decision on whether to continue using internal models for Siri or move to a partner. This entire story could evaporate if Apple's internal Linwood project suddenly makes a breakthrough. But even if Apple chooses Google, the deal could still collapse. Remember, Apple and Google are locked in a massive legal battle over search monopolies. Government regulators are already suspicious of big tech partnerships, and a Siri deal would put even more regulatory scrutiny on both companies. There's also the competition factor. Microsoft and OpenAI aren't going to sit quietly while Google potentially gains access to 1 billion iPhones. Expect them to make Apple an offer they can't refuse. And don't count out Anthropic. They might lower their prices to get back in the game. The timeline is also brutal for Apple. The revamped Siri isn't expected until spring 2026 at the earliest. That's almost 2 years away. In AI time, that's like a century. By 2026, will Gemini still be the best option? Will Apple's own AI finally be ready? Will completely new AI companies emerge as better alternatives? But here's the most important question for the future of technology. If this partnership happens, it could fundamentally change how we think about tech company competition. Instead of Apple versus Google, we might see Apple plus Google versus Microsoft plus OpenAI versus Meta plus everyone else. This could be the beginning of a new era where the biggest tech companies stop trying to do everything themselves and start forming strategic alliances. Or it could be a desperate move by a company that's lost its way in the AI revolution. One thing is certain, this story reveals just how dramatically AI is reshaping the entire technology landscape. Apple's willingness to partner with Google shows that no company, not even Apple, can master every aspect of artificial intelligence alone. But here's what I want to know from you. If you're an iPhone user, would you trust a Siri powered by Google's AI, even if your data stays on Apple's servers? Or would you rather wait for Apple to figure it out themselves, even if it takes another 5 years? That's it for today. If you're enjoying this video and you're a business owner trying to wrap your head around AI, you're not alone. We've built a community of entrepreneurs just like you exploring AI. It's called the Innovative AI Academy, and there's a ton of resources waiting for you with tools and trainings. Click the link below to check it out and come say hi. If this helped, hit like, subscribe, and share it with someone building smarter. Thank you. I'll see you in the next one.